This is the passenger side caliper. There's the piston, and I'm just about ready to compress the piston back into the caliper to see if it's froze up or not. And I bought a tool like this, and I think it was $10, so that's not too bad. They recommend putting the brake pad in there and compressing on the old brake pad, so I'll probably go ahead and do that and see if it's froze up or not. I just compressed it with this tool, and you can see that the old brake pad was used as a spacer, just so the clamp didn't do any damage to the piston. That's what they recommend in the usage of it. So anyway, the piston, as you can see, went all the way back. There was no resistance at all. Something was causing this to jam and drag. So, and the bearing for the hub, you know, there's no real way to test it unless you get a dial indicator, but the bearing seems okay. So I'm concluding that it's probably the pins. I think there's just enough movement in those two spots that caused the pads to jam, because I'm not seeing anywhere else that would have caused the pads to stick, because like I said, the piston moved back very easily. I've got the caliper base. This is the part that actually mounts to the car, and I've cleaned it up with soap and water, just dish soap. It's not 100% clean, but it definitely has less of that brake dust and dirt on it. The problem I was having was the passenger side in particular. Something was jamming and causing like brake drag or some kind of drag on the passenger wheel, and I've concluded, not 100%, but I'm guessing that it's these slide pins, and basically they have to be lubricated, because when I first took them off, when I first started taking the caliper apart, I wiggled these back and forth, and there was play in there, quite a bit. And then I turned them like this, and they felt a little better, and they're tighter now. So what I'm going to do is remove them and put some, what do they call it, disc brake caliper lube, and re-lube the slide pins, just to make sure there's plenty of lubrication, because I think some of the problem was definitely in here. I did find a 17mm thin head. I think the camera can pick that up, but see how it clears it? It's actually inside the hex bolt head, so it's really hard to do when you're looking at a screen. So both sides clear. So this was it was a little expensive. I think if I had an old one laying around, I'd just grind the head down a little bit, but I don't have a grinder anymore. So, and then this is the standard. Whoops. And you can see that it, you know, goes well over the head. So can't use that. And this was the standard 11/16 that is close to 17mm. And you have the same problem. That one goes over. So I'll go ahead and show the slide pin, and I guess on the Yaris, one of the slide pins has a little rubber, I don't know if it's rubber or a little bit harder plastic, it's like a ring around the slide pin, so I'll go ahead and show that. I think it goes on the bottom one, maybe. I'll have to double check that because there's only one. So I would work on one pin at a time, just so you make sure that same pin goes back in the same hole. I just broke the boot seal, and the boot seal's on this little lip right here. So this is the first time I've pulled this out, so I don't know what to expect. It looks like it has, yeah, it looks like it has some channels in it. Feels like it's got some suction. It's a little difficult to do with one hand. So here's the slide pin with the plastic ring around it. It actually feels like it's soft, so it's a rubber. I have no idea why it's there, because from what I've gathered, this one doesn't have one. So why this one does, I don't know. I'm just going to make sure it goes back in the same spot. So this stays on, I guess. And it looks like there's channels. See, it's a little bit flatter here. Yeah, interesting. So there's very little lubrication right up here. So I'm going to go ahead and lubricate it. I tend to over lubricate, and that's not a good thing. So I'm going to take my time and make sure I only put in there what's needed. This is classified as the lower because of this, what do they call this? Slide bush. So it's like they classify it as like a bushing, but it is kind of rubberized, so it's not metallic or a hard plastic. So you don't want to get them mixed up. So here's the slide bushing, and there's the lower, they classify it as the lower pin, and this is the upper pin. So these arrows all indicate lubrication points. Well, maybe not there. Here, I'm looking at the wrong sheet. Yeah. Okay, these two are okay. So the arrows indicate lubrication points. So you have to lubricate both sides of the boots. And you have to lubricate here in the middle and towards the slide pin, the end of the slide pin, and then 3 different spots in this one. So here's the grease that they recommend, and this indicates the points where you want it. So there's that. So obviously it needs to be lubricated very well, and they just want to make sure that that's done. So I'll go ahead and do that. And I looked inside here, inside the bore a little bit, just the best I could, just flashing the shop light in there, and it doesn't look like it's worn too bad. I didn't see any, actually, not anything scary or any corrosion. So I'm curious to know why they put these flat spots on this slide pin. There's 3 of them. So that's kind of interesting. There has to be a reason. Anyway, so it may be a spot just for the lubrication to sit. So that might be a good spot to make sure there's extra lubrication. I just put this pin in. This was the lower one with the bushing, and I pulled out the upper one, and there's a little bit of a wear mark or something right there. And the odd thing too, there's another wear spot. So this one had a little more water. It looked like some water got in through the seal over time. Not much, but just a little tiny bit. And this does not have that flat spot that goes all the way up. It only goes halfway. So, and there's still 3 of them. Interesting. So they recommend for the top one to at least lubricate here and here. And on this one, I did lubricate all the spots that they recommended. And to lubricate the boot, there's a flat spot in there where this pin actually rides right here, and that's what they want you to lubricate. So I took a Torx screwdriver and just I put the grease on the end here and just used it to go like this, and you could spin the screwdriver just to thoroughly coat that inside, and then right here too. So I haven't done it yet, but this is a tool I use to get the grease spread around the boot. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and do this one, and hopefully it'll be all lubricated and we can get this thing back together.